Today I will start on a small and early tutorial on how to import your own ship into SeaPower. So the first thing you need to know is you need to have Notepad++ for easy use, as you can see with all the colors and divisions in your code. You need Blender, so you can move your object material into Blender and export it for SeaPower in the correct scale, and use of UV mapping for textures. And of course you need your own SeaPower and SeaLifter, but that's separate on the Discord channel for the modding. So first things first is I got a ship here on the left, as you can see, that has already been imported. On the right I'm gonna create a new one. I basically copied the same in here. I gave it a name. It's Royal Netherlands Navy. This is a supply ship, and I named it Karel from Karel Doorman, and it's a .ini file, and you can find it in your Steam files from SeaPower. So the location is, I'm gonna show it quickly over here. So it will be in your Steam map, common, SeaPower, SeaPower data, streaming assets, user, ships, and then there is where you place your file. It's called RNN-AO Karel, and inside of here I place this ini file. So I already made the map. As you can see, this is my user map. I got ships, and here you can see the file I'm working in today. I already placed the object file in there, but it's not correctly scaled yet, and some textures, as you can see. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna import inside Blender with file, import, and depending on what for type of object you have or 3D model, you can select any of these. I have import object, so I'm gonna import that one. You come to this window for importing, just import wavefront object. As you can see, the ship is in a weird location, so I press N from Nico. I'm gonna set this to 0, and I'm gonna turn it around quickly. Mostly it's pointing to 0y in the game. Well, as you can see, the ship is now in Blender. It is not scaled properly. It's 33 meters big, so that's not correct. So I can do two things now. I can make this the correct measurement, which is indeed real life measurements, and then I can export it in the correct scale for SeaPower, or I can already do it in Blender. I'm currently deciding on doing it during the export. And for the export, your scale needs to be 0.01455610275, and in Blender you can do it this way. You go to File, Export, Point Object, and here you have the scale. Just paste it in there, and then you do triangulated mesh, and you unselect materials because you don't want the .mtl file in SeaPower. It doesn't use it. So as you can see, the scale has been changed. And if you export it like this to ships, Karel, and then I'm gonna call it RNN-AO Karel. This will be the object file. Let's go ahead and also save the file in here as a Blender file, so you can always change it at the source. So next thing we need to do is, this ship is one model. It doesn't have any submodels at the moment, as you can see here on the right. It's just this one with some textures. Normally if you have a ship with submodels, and we can create one if we want, we can make a submodel of the goalkeeper or the hit rolls or the marlins. But normally if you have a submodel, let's say I'm gonna go to edit mode, Go to mesh, separate by loose parts. As you can see on the right, you have a lot of submodels. Well, if we make this goalkeeper one submodel quickly, just a little bit like this, I shift click on everything and then Ctrl G. This is now one item. Let's say I'm gonna rename it. You can make goalkeeper to make it easy. And then the rest of the items, I'm gonna merge again. Like this. So now we have two submodels. I'm gonna call this one the hull, because it's the hull of the ship. And now we have a goalkeeper. It's of course not the perfect model as you want here. Okay, let's say you have a model with a weapon and you want that weapon to rotate on this spot, and you also want the barrel to go up and down. The easiest thing to do is you can go to edit mode. You select the location where you want it to pivot. For me right now it's this center that it has to go to 180 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever. So I selected these points. I do Shift S, cursor to selected. As you can see, it's now in the middle. It's not perfect, but for the sake of the tutorial, I don't care. Go to object mode, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. As you can see, when you have N pressed for item transform, you can see here the locations. I recommend to save these locations. Well, the ship is now too big, so if you scale it in Blender it will be properly done. But this is your difference between here and world center. That's also what you need to put in your ini code. So let's say one of the weapons later on, or here a propeller, is these position locations are basically the same. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna place this at 0. The reason is CPower will change this object file and place its origin back to world origin, and if you keep it at its original location over here where this dot is, then the rotation will go on world origin, so the goalkeeper will turn around like this. Right now it remains on world origin, and if you place the ini code as position over here where it originally has been, then it will just rotate fine on itself, on its own axle. So it's called goalkeeper. We have the hull. Now we can go to export, object. I already had the file. It's still in the scaling. You need these 4 options, and then export wavefront object. As you can see, I have the original file, the Blender file, and a new object file. Just for the sake of trying out, we could see the ship is here. So normally you have a submodel for propellers, rudders, weapon systems, perhaps radars, but this one has a solid mast with phased array radars. You can even do the hangar door, cranes that can move, whatever. So now I have all files set up. Now we go back to the code. So at the start of your file you see here type, this is a vessel, you can change its length. The real length is 203 meters by 34 out of my head. displacement, and then you come to the other things. This is basically when you're in the game, you can see the card of the ship, the identifier, to see how long it is, the weight, etc. These following settings are different. So you can see a maximum velocity forward. Well, for a destroyer, this is pretty quick. So I don't know. Let's make it 10. This is not a fast ship. Backwards, 3. And then you have your max acceleration factor minimum. That's like for waves, etc. If it's more wavy, it goes faster, less fast than when it's flat sea. Rudder turn rate, well, actually everything is being described. Well, like I said, it's a slow ship. Tilt factor. Yeah, let's leave it for now. Trim depth is when you have the object. This is our center line, this orange dot. That's also the waterline of the ship. Let's say you load the ship up, of course it will go lower. So it will be like this. This is your trim depth. Then you have your trim angle. That is this. This is your trim angle. And then you have your center to kill distance. This is the center. Will it be like this? Will it be like this? Okay. Well, buoyancy density, as you can see, when it's 1, it will swim below 1. Well, you just need to figure out what you want. Next part is animations. Well, Rules Launcher is for the Mark 29 out of my head. We don't have any animations right now, so it's gonna be 0. And I'm gonna comment this one. It's not in use. This is all not relatable at the moment. Good thing to compare it also is to open another ship that is comparable to. So for me it will be like the Sacramento class or whatever. Well, it doesn't have gas turbine or whatever, but for this tutorial I don't have to do this. Fly deck, whatever. Sensor systems. Well, we have a goalkeeper, but this is not the model I'm using at the moment. So I'm going to remove all these sensor systems. Make this as a 1 because we only have visual optics from the bridge. Weapon systems, I'm going to make it 0. I'm not going to add any weapon systems yet. So I'm going to remove all of them, also the weapon magazines. Noisemakers can remain, they're not being used anyway. So now we come to mesh definitions. This is the important part to import your ship. So this is the code from my early import. What we need to do is this is your ship's file. So it's not this one, but as you can see, it's the user vessels. But it's this location where we made them before. It's the user ships, and then this one. So we're gonna change it to AO and then Karel. And this object file is him. And then we renamed the hull version. This is the mesh inside the object file. So So we open the object file, and this is the name of the mesh. So as you can see, in your user map ships, this is the map where the object file is located, so that's here. This is the object file. We place it in the resources root, and the resources mesh is your hull, and that is the complete ship or only the bottom area, depending if you have the deck loose or whatever. Basically where your ship is being built upon, so what floats your boat. The resources material folder, I like to put it in the same map as the ship itself, not to create too many locations where I have to go to. Then I'm going to use the same naming to create the material file ini. This file does not exist yet. As you can see here, I only have textures, the object file, the Blender file, and I have the original material liberation and the original object file. The asset bundle mesh for the collider hull. This is I don't have my own collider hull right now, and you want your ship to be hit by something if it sails through you or whatever. Next part is submodels. Well, for the other ship I also added the rudders, propellers, etc, etc. Hull is not needed unless you place it on top of another ship. So right now I'm gonna remove all of these and I'm gonna make this one goalkeeper, because this submodel, that is this goalkeeper here. As you can see, it's in the ship. Remove all of these submodels, and then we don't need them. So for the next part, I'm gonna remove all of these. This is all not needed. So after your submodels, you need to describe the submodel further. As in, you open this object file, you open its hull. On top of the hull, you're gonna have submodels. With other ships, you have deck, superstructure, weapon systems, radar systems, crew members even, flags, anything possible. But for us right now, we only have the goalkeeper for the sake of the tutorial. So I'm gonna only let it load one submodel. I'm gonna create the submodel in here. I'm gonna use this Smart L example. So we need to name this goalkeeper, and it has to be exactly the same name as the submodel here and inside of your object file over here. So what you can also do is select, copy in Blender. You can paste it here, paste it here. The next part, resources mesh folder. Well, you can just go ahead and copy this part out of here to be sure. Place it above this temporarily. You can copy this. I said copy. This is your resources mesh folder, because it will drag it out of here, this object file that we had before. This is that object file. This is your root mesh, and then the resources mesh will be here, the mesh part. So for us right now, it's the goalkeeper. This is your submesh that we name everywhere the same, just not to be confused. As you can see, if you double click in Notepad++, you have it on the same. Then we have the materials folder. Be sure you don't make any typos. And then we go copy the name, and we will place it over here as well. And then I'm gonna make an extra separation because for the goalkeeper you can make its own textures. It's easier than you do it in a complete UV map, because the UV mapping in Blender, you don't have that much space for everything. As you can see, I have the goalkeeper here as one mesh, and then I have the Karel Doorman hull. It's completely, yeah, it's a load of crap. So for the position, of course right now I did not scale the ship. So the goalkeeper that I moved is right now on, yeah, kind of a stupid location. So we need to figure this out in game. To figure out how to do this, I'm gonna type this real quick. So the game is X. So the first one over here, that's your X. Second one here is your Z. And the last one is your Y inverted. So if you go to Blender, you see the axles here. So you go X, Z, Y. So if you want the goalkeeper to go up, it's Z. So as you got the wrong part selected. So this goalkeeper, it must go up. It has to go all the way over here. So what we can do is Z in the ini file. This is up already. It has to go forward, so it has to go to -Y. So it has to go some bit front. That would be this part. And the goalkeeper is in the center of the ship, so it can stay on 0. Well, for us now, the minus part has to be plus, because it's inverted. It has to go front. And it has been placed back right now. I'm gonna remove this part because it's not needed. So right now we have done the sub mesh as the goalkeeper. You can also do the propellers, as you can see here, all the parts, hull, deck, propellers, deck props will be like hull numbers, crew, like vehicles on the deck from a carrier. Then we here have the particle section. I would recommend just figure out a ship that is the same length, height, weight, whatever, to copy this over. You have multiple locations, you have small, medium, big, you have fires that are different, you have explosions, this one. You also have huge ones that will basically be like the Sacramento. The locations of your bow wave and prop wash is something you need to play with. So basically what it means, bow wave position, is when a ship goes to sea. Let's go here. And the water pushes to the front of the ship. It will create a wake over the side. If you copy a small ship, it will start somewhere here, but it obviously needs to be here at the front. And your prop wash positions are basically where your propellers are and where the wash will come out at the back of a ship. So you need to move that one as well. We're gonna skip this part, sounds 2. Colliders is something that's really needed at most parts. If you make a weapon system, you need to have a collider, which is gonna be a collider for a magazine and the weapon itself. Here on the left, for example, for the ship I already imported, we have the sensor system SmartL. I placed it on top of the collider from the SPS 48. This used to be the kit class version, I think, that I based this code on. So you have the collider for that system. It will be described over here where the location is where is the box, how big is it, and the scale part. its location and rotation. Well, for the weapon system, Smart L is its type radar. System name is Smart L. So go ahead and save this file here over the right. The colliders, we don't have to do anything with it yet until we do weapon systems, radars or whatever. So the next part is we want this ship to come inside of the game. In order to do that, we need to open a file. This is your user map. Go to language, vessel names. As you can see, I already filled it up a little bit. I'm just gonna take this one, copy paste, and I'm also gonna open the original vessel names because I don't know about supply ships yet. So if you go to yet again the Sea Power map, streaming assets, original, you have quite a lot of the same maps as you currently make. So the language EN is where you can get the vessel names out of. This is the original file, and I'm gonna find a Sacramento because I'm gonna mimic this ship. I need this part. So this is my own file in the user map. You just make the same vessel names, but in the inside of language underscore EN for English. So I'm gonna rename this exactly the same as this one. So you go ahead and change it to the same name as your file that you put in vessels. So I'm gonna rename this to Karel Doorman class. This will show up in game as the naming namespace. I'm gonna copy this. So what this is the ini file you have in user vessels. So that's gonna be this one. Then you have the type, well, it's a fleet auxiliary, so inside the game when you open the tab of choosing a ship, this one will come up under fleet auxiliary. This is the name of the class and the short name of the class. Then the first variant, well, this is a let's make it 801. This is the name of the ship and this is the variant. We also have a variant file that we need to create where this will be in. So we only have one variant. If you have multiple ships in the class and multiple textures with whole numbers, you can make extra variants, as you can see here. This one has 4 ships in the class. This one is a single class. So I'm gonna save this one, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the variants from the Zevin Province class. I'm gonna save it as the same name as we made the original ini file. What I'm gonna do is basically nothing, because this is already described as with the correct flag, which country. This will also show up in the description in game, and if you have multiple variants you need to make more, and you can also change the flag. So let's say you have a German and a Dutch one, I can also make a second variant with Germany and flag German. So that's the variants file, all you need to do, and everything for the vessel names file that you need to do. So we should be able to start up the game, and then you have the ship in the game. So I'm currently in game, and as you can see I'm currently in the game and it's full screen. I'm sorry for that, but we just go ahead up and open Encyclopedia. So here we have the tag surface ships, where we placed it on Fleet Auxiliary. Here with all the classes that showed up. So as you can see, the ship is now in game, and it lacks some textures, but it's completely there. And the goalkeeper is probably somewhere inside, so I'm gonna press F2 and start searching for it. See if we look it up and find it, which is pretty awesome. It's probably located somewhere. Oh, here it is. So as you can see, it is almost at the correct height, but it needs to go more front. So I can just open the ini file right now. I can go to the goalkeeper, and I'm just gonna place it more at the front, and I think it has to go a little bit more up. And I made a typo. So there's also a thing with this, there's only 4 behind the dot that you can do. Now I press F10. It's a little bit out of the screen right now, but you have a few options in the menu. It's called General. Press on it, do test mode, and then press respawn, and that should respawn the entire ship. It's a pretty fast reload right now because as you can see, it's more forward. It's a little bit more. Just gonna make it 0. Respawn ship again. Yet again, it's easier if you have the ship scaled already in Blender and you just do it there with the codes for location, because right now you need to redo it all the time, because in Blender obviously the ship is 203 meters and then you need to define every coordination, and that's quite annoying. So that's how that part works. I'm now going to do the textures. We have the class and the variants here described before, so you can also do different textures per ship. So let's say you have one ship is pink and the other one is blue. You can basically do that. So what we do now is we go back to the map for user ships, Karel. As you can see, you now have 2 texture systems. One of them should be the goalkeeper, it's this one. I'm gonna drag that one in the goalkeeper, and then the other one is the ship. It's this one. This is the ship texture. I'm gonna drag it to the ship. You can also see some extra files have been created. This one describes your object file, what's under there with submeshes. That's the object.log from him. Then we have the damage version. Well, we don't have a damaged version of the object, but you can actually in Blender demolish the ship a little bit, like make it burned. Save it as a damaged object and then it will show up here. We have the goalkeeper mesh textures described here that we need to use, and the normal materials from the ship. So what you need to do is you need to save these as PNG. Currently it's GPG. So I went ahead and made the PNG file for it. I'm going to use this name for the goalkeeper's normal map. As you can see, this is the location where the texture should be, and this is the file name. So you can also use various versions of underlayers or whatever. I'm not going to do that right now because it's just a tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So now you have, for the 2 meshes, this is the mesh goalkeeper. I got the PNG file and the correct location because the importer already made this. And then you also have the one for the ship itself. back to the game, respawn the ship.
Ahead flank. Maneuvering eye.
Didn't load up.
Ahead flank. Maneuvering eye.
You can see that the texture has been loaded underneath. I need to change something. I'm gonna place this one in every location. Same one for this. Seems you need all three of them. Respawn the ship. There it is, in color. We'll keep it 2. To make it a little bit better, we can also go in the back just a little bit. Ta-da! And that's the ship.
Ahead flank.
But in
Maneuvering
order to
eye.
make it more texture-like, just like every ship in the game, you need to have like, let's see. So you have like a normal map, a specialty map, and a texture map. This is what you normally have. And as you can see, this is the setup I have for the TX spec and maps. This is how I would set up a proper ship, and I can show it in game as well. So import file. And there she is, as you can see.
Make my depth 0. Dive eye.
She has no textures from all directions as well. Or if you try out the ship we just imported, then you're gonna see that it's a little bit glossy, it's shiny in some parts. That's why you need a purple background. And the backlighting's so weird, and whatever, the door is not proper. Also the ship is mirrored. That's also what happens quite often with Sea Lifter. So what you need to do is you go back to Blender. You're gonna press Alt, Ctrl M, and then on XS, Axle, XM, mirror, X, and then press Enter. Now the ship has been mirrored on this setting. Save it again, check that everything is correct. I'm gonna respawn the ship, and you're gonna see that it's not properly mirrored.
Ahead flank. Maneuvering eye.
But yeah, this system won't work because I didn't describe the system. Code that it can rotate, and it's a weapon system. And as you can see, the texture some items need to be submodel. This needs to be submodel. The wires have to be submodel. So if you the ribs too, and also the propellers. And this is what I meant with the location of the prop wash, and the bow wash is also on location. But yeah, she's sailing, as you can see. Speed is 9 knots right now, it's not much.
Ahead flank. Maneuvering eye.